Any advice for anybody kind of doing the house hacking the way you guys did?
I would say don't move the goalposts to make the numbers work. You have to be honest with yourself, whether it's the renovation cost or the rents. A lot of people will move the goalposts and convince themselves that this will work. You're eventually going to find out the hard way, whether it's you're spending more money on renovations or you're not getting the rents that you wanted and now the pro forma looks poorly. Just be more honest with yourself on what's realistic.
My guest today is Kris Proule, a real estate developer, investor, consultant at KP Capital. Kris comes from a corporate consulting and finance background and brings a disciplined underwriting mindset into residential development and value-add investing. He started his real estate journey through house hacking and has since expanded into projects ranging from single-family homes to multi-family condo developments. Beyond investing his own capital, Kris also advises other developers and investors on deal analysis and execution, from underwriting all the way through stabilization. Today, we'll talk about how he thinks about risk, underwriting, and what actually makes deals work in practice. Kris, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And when I was reading this, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense because we obviously work together and consulted on our major projects.
You were one of my first clients.
That's awesome.
When I first got into it.
Cool. So honestly, I don't really know your house hacking story.
Yeah.
I saw it on your notes. So let's start there. How did you first get into real estate and what made house hacking the entry point?
So I would say the original entry into real estate, my parents did very small scale rental portfolio. And when I say portfolio, it's very much a portfolio. They were both worked in public schools. My mom was a teacher. My father worked in the superintendent's office. So it wasn't like they had a ton of money to go spend on these properties. So what they would do is they would buy these foreclosed small condos in my town. I'm talking like $20,000 condos. And then my dad, my brother, myself would go in, light renovations, new carpets, painting, appliances, and they would rent it out. And the concept from a very early age of somebody else paying the mortgage, making a very small profit per month. Like I think their profit might have been $150, $200. But the concept made sense to me at a very young age. So I always knew that I wanted to own real estate, wanted to be a real estate investor. In the beginning, I thought it was going to be more of a passive thing. I thought I was going to go corporate finance, consulting, try to make as much money as I could, and then invest on the side. And then once I started to really research into it, I realized it was really what I wanted to do was get into development. So my first house hack, my now wife, at the time we were just engaged. We were renting an apartment together in South Boston. We were talking about wanting to buy something. And she wanted to buy a beautiful brand new condo in Southie. And I said, that sounds great, but I think what we should really do is buy a really decrepit triple decker that we could use as an investment. That took a lot of convincing. It actually took me bringing her to a networking event to listen to a mortgage broker talk about FHA and talk about the power of buying real estate and what it could do. And after that, it kind of clicked a little bit more. And then I'm kind of a nerd with Excel. So I started showing her Excels of real properties of saying, this is how much we'd have to bring to the table. This is what the rent could rent for. And then if we move out, this is how much we would make per month. And once we kind of did that, she was on board. And so now fast forward, COVID hits. And you're not really going out to properties because this was like March, April of COVID, and you're bunkered down. And I think it was right around like May, we found one off market through just networking with people. I mean, we're going in with masks and you had to quickly run in, peek your head in and see what the place looked like. And it was pretty gross. Two of the units were like very lightly renovated. They had tenants in it paying great rent. And what it was somebody essentially subletting the units. She was a flight attendant and she would rent out to other flight attendants.
Gotcha.
And they were paying significantly above market rate rent. Like I'd say like 20%. Wow. So when I pitched it to her, I said, there's already 2 of the 3 units rented. We don't have to renovate those. The worst unit we'll take and we'll close on the property. We'll still have our rental. We'll renovate it. and then we'll move into it for at least a year or two, and then hopefully repeat the same process. So we close, and within a day of closing, we get a call from the person who's subletting. It was basically a bait and switch, and they said, we have a mouse issue, and we're going to terminate our lease tomorrow for both units.
Wow.
So I had to call my wife and say,
Wow.
hey, that triple decker I convinced you that we should buy, the tenants are going to move out, and now we have to renovate the whole building.
Wow.
So that entire summer, luckily, again, it was COVID, so she was working from home, I was working from home, and we would do a lot of nights and weekends, and where we had to renovate all 3 units and we didn't budget for that, it quickly became, okay, you're going to do most of it. So she had 0 experience. I had some decent experience. My father, luckily, had just retired, so he had tons of time. So the 3 of us, it was a team effort, and I was very proud of my wife for how she handled it. And, it was a success story, I would say. In the end, it all worked out great. We still own it till today. And we were able to renovate it in a few months, got it leased up. We moved into one of the units, and we were able to live there for a year. And then we eventually moved in with my mother, saved up a little more money,
Wow.
and then repeated the process again.
Wow. So that house hacking then really kind of gave you that start.
It did.
Right?
Yep. It gave us a start in a couple different ways, to get experience as far as the renovation process.
Yeah.
You learn a ton, a lot of mistakes. You learn a ton of efficiencies, a lot of inefficiencies. But also you build up credibility. So then when you go to a bank the next time, you can show, hey, we've already done this once. Here's the success story. And we put together a nice portfolio of pictures, renovations, exactly what we did, what the rents were before, what are we getting for rents now. And we were able to bring that to banks and have more credibility for that. And then also, too, is just sharing the story on social media and getting it out there. And something that I've learned through a couple different people is when you're looking to buy a property or do a development, put it out there. Put it out to the world that you want to do a specific thing. And you never know who's going to read that message and say, oh, you know what? Actually, I have a triple decker. And that's actually how we got our second one, was I just put out on social media, hey, looking for a 3-family in this price range in these areas. And somebody messaged me and said, hey, actually, my grandmother is going to be selling her triple decker.
Here we go.
We haven't put it on the market yet. Do you want to come over and check it out?
That's awesome.
I went over and we signed the agreement.
It's funny you said that, because I've said that even on video multiple times, even here at the meetup.
Yeah.
Right. I tell people, you might not even be a real estate investor, but you want to be one. Right. Identify what you're going after and just tell everybody. You just don't know who might have a deal or who actually wants to partner up, or you just got to share it. You got to put it out there. It might be, and starting out might be hard to do that. Right. Because you don't have the background, you don't have the experience. You just don't believe in it hard enough.
Right. And if people are on the other side and you don't have experience, they might not take you as serious.
Correct.
So it is harder to get your start. Something that I've told people too is be hyper-focused. It doesn't have to necessarily be a certain area.
Yeah.
But be very specific of, this is the price range, this is the condition I want. I'm going to be closing conventional. Whatever it is, be specific. Because if you say to an agent at a networking event, hey, bring me a good deal.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Yeah. And they're going to put you to the bottom of the list. But if you give a specific buy box.
I love that. Yeah. 100%. Looking back, any lessons learned during those 2 deals or any advice for anybody kind of doing the house hacking the way you guys did?
I would say don't move the goalposts to make the numbers work.
Yeah.
You have to be honest with yourself, whether it's the renovation costs or the rents. I think a lot of people will move the goalposts to make a deal work and convince themselves that this will work. And then you're eventually going to find out the hard way, whether it's, you're spending more money on renovations or you're not getting the rents that you wanted and now the pro forma looks poorly.
Yeah.
So just be more honest with yourself on what's realistic.
You are a numbers guy, so it came easy to you to just kind of track all those numbers. But someone starting out, where do they even find the rent amounts? How much can they charge per unit, or even the renovation cost? I think probably that was hard for you too, right? Because
the renovation cost is hard, especially on a renovation, because you don't know what's behind the walls. So, the more experience you can get, and something that I've learned too is it's a real personal networking, teamwork type of game, if you want to call it. So if you build up trust with, say, like your electrician or your plumber, you could send them pictures. You can ask them to walk it with you, and they'll be able to give you a pretty good ballpark of what something's going to cost. I'd say the renovation is the hardest to put the number on, especially in a renovation. But I would say for comps, it's a little bit easier. Go on Zillow, go on MLS if you have, your real estate license, and
ask an agent.
Ask an agent, but be realistic. Like, if you're renovating an older apartment and you plan to just like do some new paint, maybe some new tile in the bathroom, you're not going to get the same rent as like a high rise in Seaport. Like, you have to be realistic with yourself and say, okay, the range in this market for a 2-bed is this range. I'm probably going to be in the middle to lower range, so this is probably where I'll end up.
Yeah. When did you quit your job? At what point?
2019. So at the time, I was traveling a lot for work. Every single week, I was doing consulting with Deloitte. And I was traveling Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday, flying across the country and working a lot of hours. And I wasn't really enjoying it. And at the time, I was planning in my head, I'm like, okay, when I get to this level, I'll quit and do this full time. And it was after, a tough travel week. I was having a conversation with my wife, and she was actually the one that convinced me just to go for it. She was like, we're good. I'm working a good job. You've always wanted to do this. You're not happy with what you're doing. Why don't you just go for it? So I started networking with developers, and I wasn't just going to quit and just jump into it. So I wanted to have a plan. So I networked with a ton of developers, and I had met up with Ricky at Volney, and I basically pitched to him, like, these are the inefficiencies in your company. Here's how I could help improve your company. And it took about 3 of those meetings for him to say, all right, let's give this a shot. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
That's cool. There's been a pattern today for the these interviews that I've had, because obviously I had an interview with John earlier, and then with Adam, and even though this interviews will come out separately, right? But the theme has been that all 3 of you guys reached out to other people, asking to pick their brain, but also adding value to them.
Yes.
None of the 3 of you was like, hey, tell me how to do this, right? and that builder or developer, kind of be like, sure, let me show you everything. You really went from the approach of like, let me help you out, and this is how I can do that. In the meantime,
right.
Obviously you're learning from what they're doing, right? And
totally.
Because I'm sure Ricky was approached by a lot of other people. He has a huge social media presence, right? So how did you get past that? And just curious, like, what did you offer to really make him convinced that, you'd add value to him in his operation?
So at the time, I think he had said at the time he was doing 3 to 5 coffees a week with people that would reach out.
Yeah.
And most of them were just, hey, I just want to hear about your story.
Yeah.
And that pretty much the first time we met, that's the extent of basically the meetup was, this is what I'm doing, like, have a good day. And that was kind of it. It wasn't until like the second or third meeting did I wanted to understand his business first and see where I could add value. But to your point, anybody that's trying to get into this industry and you want to reach out to people, add value. Hey, can I buy you coffee? Mark Svatsky has a great recommendation where he does a donation. So it's something just to either add value or pique their interest, and make sure it's not just a time suck for the person on the other side of the table. Definitely reach out, either add value, whether it's short-term, long-term, things like that.
That's cool. That's awesome. What happened next, I guess? So obviously, you went in and helped Ricky with whatever you could help. And then you took a role into his business, or you just... Yeah.
So it started off as just 50% of my time would be dedicated with him, and 50% would be trying to grow my consulting side of the business. The consulting has evolved differently over the past few years, and I'm happy where it's at, and I'll kind of get into that.
Yeah.
But basically it started off just kind of taking some things off his plate, some basic underwriting, more behind the scenes, like almost admin work, project manager work. And then it's kind of just snowballed where he started to take on the bigger projects. and he asked, do you want to take more of a bigger role in these smaller developments? This is what you want to do.
Gotcha.
We could structure it where like there's some type of profit split. So that's kind of how that snowballed.
Wow.
And then the consulting, since day one, I've always been doing my own consulting and always knew I wanted to do my own development on the side. So that was something that, right from the get-go, we had talked about doing both.
Gotcha. So let's, it's a good segue to then, tell me about obviously what your business looks like right now.
Yeah.
From, in regards to consulting, but also your own developments.
Yeah. So my own development, I just wrapped up a 9-unit condo project in East Boston.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
That's one of your, just you.
Myself and Jack Ordway had partnered. Jack was the GC,
Yeah.
I was the developer.
Yeah.
And we partnered with Evo to list the units.
Wow.
So
all units are sold?
8 out of 9 are under agreement.
That's awesome.
3 have closed so far. We had another 4 that are closing over the next 2 weeks. And then 1 is scheduled to close in March. But we got CO the day after Christmas. So a little late Christmas present.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that a good project?
Yeah. It went really well. I would say from execution to completion, it went pretty smoothly. I think that comes down to something that I've learned is how important the pre-con is, and just planning out in advance and just kind of having a schedule and sticking to it and just notifying subcontractors ahead of time. But I'd say from a construction standpoint, I think we're maybe a month behind on schedule. From a budget, I think we finished just under 2% to our budget, so that was pretty good.
Wow, yeah.
And for our sellout, we're pretty on track with hitting our sellout. Like I think for the units that are under agreement, we're 99.5% to our forecast. So definitely very happy with that. Evo did a great job listing it and getting it out there.
Who was the agent for that one?
Karina.
Karina, okay.
Yeah. And
That's
then
awesome.
for the consulting, I've kind of shifted to working with more investors. So a lot of people who are either have like their own companies or have completely separate industries that they want to, they have a large sum of capital. They want to buy multifamily properties, but they don't have time or the expertise, and they understand the value of hiring somebody to do it for them. So I underwrite the deals with them before they purchase it. If there's a zoning aspect, there's like one project that I'm on right now, there's a zoning aspect, so I'm working with the zoning attorney, and I'm kind of spearheading it as if I'm the developer.
Nice.
Overseeing the renovation and development of the property. I'm working with the leasing team to get it stabilized, and then I'm also working with the bank for the loan draws.
Wow.
And so I'm kind of doing the full spectrum, and then once it's done, I'll help get it set up for property management and make sure it's in a position to be successful.
It's pretty much hand-holding through the whole process.
Yes.
And making sure that, obviously, you are the accountability partner there for them as well.
Right.
It's like, hey, this deal makes sense because of, here
Right.
we go.
And some of these partners some of these investors I'm working with, I've also partnered with them. If I'm in a position where I am looking to invest in another project, and I have done that, I've partnered with people. And that's something that I'm starting to get more into now is partnering with the right people on projects that make sense to partner on.
Yeah. Kris, what assumptions do you see investors get wrong when analyzing deals?
I would say from investor or developer standpoint?
Investor standpoint.
Okay. From an investor standpoint, I would say mostly on the comp side, I would say investors will...
They're more optimistic on what
they're more optimistic. And you kind of have to just reel them in and just set expectations and kind of coaching them more on the type of property they're buying. So if they're buying, a 150-year-old building in Boston, which is a pretty normal age for one of these buildings, and you're not gut renovating it, they have to understand that when they're setting aside CapEx and OpEx, you might have to bump that up to 3%, 5%. Some of these investors are buying brand new assets, and then they're trying to now get into the value add ones, and you kind of have to coach them on, you're not going to get that top rent. You need to set aside money for repairs down the road, things like that.
Gotcha. How do you stress test a deal before you feel comfortable moving forward? Either your own or when you're consulting for somebody?
For developments?
Yeah.
Stress tests, I try to be conservative on especially the cost of capital and the carry cost.
Okay.
I think that is something that has drastically changed. Even say, let's go back to 2021 when interest rates were 3%. You didn't really have to worry about as much for the cost of capital and the carry cost. Now it's a completely different ballgame. The size of the project directly impacts the carry cost, how much capital you're going to need, what the banks are going to require. So I would say that's the biggest piece that I'm more conservative on now. And then with the sellouts, I personally underwrite sellouts as if I finished the building today. What is it selling at?
So you're looking at comps selling today.
Comp selling today.
And then that's the numbers that you plug in for a project that might sell 12, 18 months or who knows,
because
down the road.
My thought though too is like if say sales are increasing at 3%, 5%, costs are also increasing at the same time. So if I'm running my development on costs, what it is today, and what sales are today, it will probably shake out around the same down the road 2 years from then. Whether it's sales are higher, but construction costs went up, you would hope that that would net each other out.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. What's a red flag that immediately makes you pause?
I would say a permitted deal that somebody's selling. I would say back in the days of the lower interest rates, there was a lot of good deals being sold where both the person who had permitted the deal and the person who purchased the deal could both make good money on it. I would say in today's market where interest rates are higher, a lot of these, as you've seen, some of these entitlement processes can take 2-3 years.
Absolutely.
So if you're in 2026, or let's go back to 2025, 3 years before that, interest rates were at 3%, 4%. So a deal might have made sense then that doesn't make sense now. So if they're selling it, why are they selling it? That's usually my first red flag is permitted deals that are being sold.
Yeah. And so when you're underwriting deals now, what are you plugging in for interest rates?
Right now, I typically put in about 6.5%.
Okay. So that would be with a local bank, I guess.
Yeah, typically local banks.
25% down, 30% down, or what
it
does
depends.
That look like?
A lot of it has to come down to like the loan to value or the loan to cost.
Gotcha.
Is what the banks are looking for.
Gotcha.
Something that we've been doing more recently on, and I think a lot of developers are starting to do that, is working with brokers to find somebody to finance the deal.
Yeah.
The last few deals, I've done that, and I've gotten significantly better rates and terms than what I was getting before. And I think there's always turnover at the banks. So even if you're loyal to one bank, there's turnover with leadership. So the person who's the decision maker at the last deal might not be the decision maker now.
Yeah.
So you kind of, there are benefits to being loyal to some banks, but I think you're in the long run better off using a broker.
Yeah.
And they typically are worth their weight in gold in finding a good deal.
Yeah. They obviously do charge for that service, right? But it's what you get in return might be a way better rate, and you got options at that point.
Right.
Who are you guys working for that service?
We've used a couple different ones. So we've used Finance Boston, Land Up Capital. I'm trying to think who else. That's about it for right now.
Yeah. Let's switch gears to multifamily a little bit. So you guys, you still obviously own those multifamily that you bought.
Yeah.
What makes a good buy and hold? Like how do you look at that as far as like, are you looking at appreciation? Are you looking at it from the cash flow perspective? Are you looking at it from, the tax savings? Because obviously you got your active income.
Right.
And then location, like, you know, are you guys just in Dorchester or other neighborhoods?
No, we're kind of, it's all in Boston.
Okay.
I don't think I'll be going outside of Boston.
Okay.
If I did, it would just be, a small radius outside of Boston. I think it's just a pretty strong market. I would say I go for the class like A-B neighborhoods.
Okay.
I think those are higher price points,
right?
But I think the clientele you get is usually pretty good.
Okay.
Students, young professionals, families,
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, from the cash flow perspective, right now my strategy is to make sure it does cash flow. Helps offset income.
Right.
So right now for me, that's where I'm at. I think I've worked with sophisticated investors that they're in different phases of their life and different capital. So I see their strategy of buying in markets that don't necessarily cash flow, but have the appreciation aspect of it. I would say cash flow is important for me. Location is probably number one. And then I would say another piece is renovating the mechanicals right from the get-go. I think that's something that has worked out well, is, doing the new plumbing, doing the new electric. So I own 3 properties right now, and all of them were all new plumbing, all new electric, renovated kitchens and baths.
Nice.
And it's something that like you kind of set it and forget it, and then don't have to go through the lapse of vacancy while you're trying to renovate it.
Yeah. Gotcha. So you're shooting for cash flow, but if you can add value through those renovations, you'll still be interested.
Yep. I think something that I'm starting to get more into now is further value add. Like I would say the value add of the first few properties was taking the existing square footage and existing space and just renovating it. The most recent one that I purchased, we by right were able to add square footage in the basement. So we were able to take it from, I think it was 1,800 square feet. And we were able to add an extra 3 bedrooms downstairs.
As part of Unit 1?
As part of Unit 1. So it became 2 bi-level, 4-bed, 2-bath with storage. And we were able to get very good rents. It was in South Boston.
Nice.
But that was one where like we were able to add the square footage and force the appreciation and force the value into it.
Gotcha. Yeah. How are you finding these deals?
So the first one was just through networking.
Nice.
The second one was through social media.
Here we go.
And then the third one, again, was through just a network. I had put it out there that I was looking, anybody that would listen, I would say, hey, I'm looking for a deal. This is the price range. These are the neighborhoods I'm looking for. Let me know if you have one. The last one is actually kind of a crazy story. I don't know if you have
Let's
time
do it.
for that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So that one, it got brought to me off market.
In Southie?
In Southie. Somebody had passed away, an older lady, and her 6 children were going to inherit the property. And she had lived in it for 70 years. And it was 70 years worth of furniture, clothes, everything stacked up. And it was in really rough shape. And the family didn't want to put it on the market. They just wanted a clean close. There wasn't really much back and forth on price. They were like, this is what we want. It's still a good deal.
Yeah.
And I completely agreed with them. The price was good. Got the offer accepted and started working towards P&S. And then all of a sudden, 2 days before P&S, I got a frantic call by the agent who was representing the family saying, the house is going to auction. You need to hurry up and get down there and save the property.
Oh, wow.
And I had just gotten back from the gym. It was like...
You had no idea?
Yeah, it was like 7 in the morning. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we have a signed agreement. He was like...
Doesn't matter.
There was a reverse mortgage that we didn't know about.
Oh, wow.
And the bank is going to take the property. Like, you need to get down there and stop it right now.
So that was happening that day that you got the call?
Yeah. So I immediately just hopped in my truck, drove straight to Southie. I'm calling my attorney to, get in touch with the bank. So I show up there and...
There was an auction.
There was an auction going on. There was the auctioneer with the auction sign. There was 30 people lined up. So I get out and I say, hey, you got to stop the auction. Like, I have this under agreement. Of course, all 30 of the people start calling me every name in the book, telling me to shut up, telling me to get the F out of here.
Yeah.
And so the guy comes over, starts talking to me. I show him the accepted offer. He said, do you have a P&S? I said, no, we're supposed to sign the P&S in 2 or 3 days. He's like, well, if you don't have a P&S, there's nothing I can do. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, we're going to be closing on this. So he says, I'll delay it in an hour so you can have your attorney call this person. This is the bank's attorney. But what I would recommend is he goes, go to a bank, get a $10,000 deposit check made out to this auctioneer because there's a good chance you're going to have to bid just like everybody else. So I call up my attorney, tell him to, call them, figure it out. In the same time, it was, again, a relationship game. I called the bank that was going to be doing the financing on it, and I said, I need you to send me a pre-approval letter right now for this amount, this date, say that we'll be able to close right away, there's no issues. I go to a bank, I get a deposit check, I come back with the deposit check, they postpone it another hour. So then, long story short, we get them to postpone it a week.
Right. And that's all you needed.
Well,
right?
we thought that we basically just kept buying ourselves
Time.
a week,
Yeah.
a week, a week. But what we had to do during that week is reach out to a hard money lender because our bank at the time said we still need 45 days to close.
Yeah.
So I had to approach a hard money lender and say, hey, in the event that we have to close in a day's notice, can you close?
Yeah.
And it was going to be a lot of money to basically do a double close.
Yeah.
So again, relationship game. I had a relationship with a hard money lender, explained the whole scenario to them. They were very cool about it.
Yeah.
And they just said, yep, we'll come underwrite it and everything as if we're going to close on it. We understand the circumstances. And if you need us, we're here. If not, you can close with the bank. So long story short, it all worked out. We were able to close with our bank and didn't have to use the hard money lender. And yeah.
It worked out.
It worked out. It was a crazy deal.
It
It was basically a month of on pins and needles and just on edge, just like waiting for something to happen. And finally, once we closed, it didn't feel real until
Yeah.
we started clearing everything
Good for
out.
you, man. You obviously stayed with it and you hustled and you got it done.
Yeah.
And this was on your for your personal acquisition.
So that was one I partnered with somebody on.
You partnered with somebody
Yeah.
else. Got
so
you.
we're 50% owner in it.
Got you. Got you. Cool. How do you personally think about risk as deals get larger?
Yeah.
Right? Because obviously you have grown into bigger deals, right? Even the 9 unit,
Right.
right? That's a lot.
Yeah. So I would say you lose less flexibility. So when you go to these larger deals, a mentor of mine said, keep it small, keep it all. And that's something that I've seen be very true, is the larger you go, you need to bring in more investors.
Correct.
You lose a larger percentage of the deal. You still have the same amount of risk, but you lose the upside on it. So that's kind of my hesitation on going larger. I think for me right now, I'd rather grow slow. I would rather take on something that I can stomach the loss if it goes south and it doesn't, bankrupt me and take everything I have. So I think for me, it's taking not necessarily baby steps, but calculated risk, or partnering with people that do have the balance sheet. And I think that's important to recognize that as well.
Yeah, no, that's huge. What do you think has changed most how you evaluate deals in this market?
I would say it's definitely been a buyer's market for the past few years and definitely still today. So it's recognizing how things are going on a project and needing to be able to pivot right away. On the 9 unit, it was something that we talked on a weekly basis with our leasing team. How did the open houses go? What was the feedback? Okay, do we need to pivot? Do we need to stage this unit? Do we need to lower the price on this unit? Do we need to add extra features in this? So it was just kind of pivoting around the buyer's market.
Gotcha. And where do you see opportunity right now that others maybe are overlooking?
I would say the value add of knowing zoning in certain areas. I think
In the city?
Yeah, in the city or even in the suburbs, ADUs, subletting or subdividing lots. I would say a lot of people always try to go for the home run, and in a tough market, you need to be okay with the singles and the doubles.
Right. Stay in the game.
Yeah, stay in the game and keep things moving.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously you got to look for deals and you got to do those activities. But if you understand zoning, it's something that maybe can make a deal work where somebody else missed it. If someone is analyzing their first value add or development deal, what should they be most careful about, most cautious about?
I would say the construction costs.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to reach out to people. I would say,
Yeah.
Don't waste the GC's time if you're constantly just reaching out and asking for them to price things.
Yeah.
You have to, again, add value to somebody to be able to take time off their plate or add something to them to be able to get info from them.
Yeah.
Or you can reach out to somebody like myself and people that underwrite deals for you because they're the experts that can quickly look at a deal and tell you if it's going to make money or not.
Yeah.
I would say sometimes I feel like the Grim Reaper on deals where the amount of people I've said, don't do this deal, you're going to lose money on it.
Right.
And you'd rather that hard truth now than when you're
lose the
losing
money.
money.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kris, what is there a? I asked this to Adam, and I felt guilty even asking it, but I know people do ask me this question, and then they're looking for some type of a rule of thumb for as far as cost per construction, cost per square feet. It's a loaded question, right? And Adam was like, where? What?
Yeah, exactly.
But how do you, so obviously when you're building condos versus a single family, things will change. How do you go about thinking of those costs?
Yeah, so something that I've started to do is really look at historical costs of my projects and be able to try to associate the type of project that we're looking at to underwrite and seeing if it's that type of deal of like, what do we cost for site work? What do we cost for this? Somewhere like Boston where it's a landfill, there's a lot of hidden costs, like just getting it out of the ground, as I'm sure you've seen. So again, knowing people that are in the industry, I could reach out to my excavator and say, have you done a project on this street? What is the soil like? What should I carry for that? We do have like a rule of thumb for general construction, but again, there's a lot of things that dictate that. Like, do you have an elevator? Is there parking underneath? Is there steel in the building? There's a lot of triggers that can kind of,
and it will depend obviously on the finishes and everything else.
And where it is, So I mean, I would say it ranges anywhere from like $275 a square foot for new construction to $315, $325 a square foot. There's a lot of different factors that kind of impact that.
And then if you're underwriting a deal like your small multifamily, where you're doing the electrical, the plumbing, kitchen and baths, what do you do there?
So that I typically reach out to my plumber or my electrician and I say, hey, there's going to be, for like plumber, for example, I'll usually say there's 4 bathrooms, 3 kitchens. What do you think it's going to cost? And then kind of anticipating what other follow-up questions going to be. Like, is it going to be tubs or showers? Is it going to be gas heating, or are you going to be doing all electric? Similar questions go hand in hand with the electrician too. Is it all electric? Are you bringing gas in? Like things like that.
So it's not a cost per square foot.
No,
it's more like a line item by line item almost.
I would say for the new construction, you have a better chance of doing the cost per square foot. And for the renovation, it's completely different from every project to project.
Gotcha. Cool. Before I forget, you mentioned the city. You love the city of Boston. You said, I have some specific neighborhoods I buy in. What are what are those neighborhoods?
I would say I like East Boston. I like Southie. Certain areas of Dorchester I like. I'm starting to look into like Brighton, Allston, Mission Hill, kind of all around Boston area.
Gotcha.
Basically where any students or young professionals would be.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Gotcha. Cool. We're gonna wrap this up soon because obviously we have to head out to the meetup. You and I can obviously talk about real estate for a long time. But a couple more things. What's the biggest lesson real estate has taught you so far? Think of all the deals and all the things you have been through so far. What's that one thing that really kind of stands out?
I would say something that I keep repeating the same message about how it's a relationship game. Something that I made a big mistake on when I first got into it was taking lessons I learned in like the corporate world and almost assuming that everything was just a number. If you got subs from takeoffs from subs, go with the lowest number and didn't really matter about the relationship and going back to these people and trying to like hustle them down. And all it's doing is like hurting your relationship with that person. So that's something that I've learned the hard way after the first, I'd say year, was learning that, go with the best quality sub. There's no harm in getting multiple quotes for projects, but it's a relationship game. So there's been plenty of times that I've had to call my subcontractors in a pinch and say, hey, can you help me out with this? Do you mind jumping over here to do this? Or I really need to finish by this date. But if you didn't have that relationship, they're not going to care. Or if you're constantly hustling them, trying to lower their price, all you're doing is taking money out of their pocket. So that's, it's not good business.
To force the number and make the deal work, when maybe you should have bought a lower number or just...
Exactly. You're trying to impact them because you messed up.
Yeah. Are you still going after 3 quotes? And what happens when somebody's a little higher, but you like them?
Yeah.
Do you negotiate still, or like how does
I try
that
to
work?
do more value engineering.
Yeah.
I have a project right now that I'm running that there was a subcontractor that I really wanted to work with.
Yeah.
He had been great to work with in the past. He had really helped me out on a lot of things, and his number just came in like 20% higher. So I approached him and I just said, hey, I'm not trying to ask you to lower your price. Here's where they're coming in at. Here's where you're coming in at. What can we do to value engineer this down? And right off the get-go, he was looking at an old set of plans, and it instantly knocked off 500 square feet. Okay, so now we're down to only 10% higher. Okay, what else could we do to value engineer this? And we talked through it. We were on the call for maybe an hour or two and went through the plans. And he said, if you adjust this and you adjust this, if you swap this for this, this is how I can get to the number that you want. So it was just working with them. And
that's awesome. Open communication, open and
communication. It wasn't, try to nickel and dime them. It was just like, hey, educate me. And that was something that I became very comfortable with early on, is telling them like, hey, like I'm either new at this or I want to learn from you. What can I do here that isn't going to impact the quality of the building, but can reduce the cost? Yeah. Especially in a rental building, like you don't need recessed lights in a bedroom.
Right.
If you do a center mount light,
right? Yeah.
Right.
It can be a flush mount.
Flush mount, like that will save you. Multiply that by 10 bedrooms, like it counts.
Heads up. Yeah. How do you feel about this market in 2026? In Greater Boston, obviously. Let's be specific, because that is
Greater Boston. I would say I feel better in 2026 than I did in 2025.
Okay.
I don't think 2026 is going to be a big boom year. I think people are comfortable at where the rates are at. I think for the past 3 years, we just saw them increase. Buyers were on the sidelines just waiting for it to come down. Yeah. I don't think they're going to ever go back to the 3s. Yeah. I think maybe in the next 5 years, they'll get down to the low 5s, maybe high 4s, but probably doubtful on that. So I think buyers are becoming more comfortable with the stability of the market and just where interest rates are kind of settling at right now. Yeah. So I think they will come out more. And we even saw it on our side. Yeah. Once we saw the first interest rate drop,
more showings, more offers.
Way more showings, way more offers. Typically in a slowdown period, December and January are historically never sell anything. And we, for that unit, for the 8 that we have under agreement, I think 4 or 5 of them happened in the months of December and January. Wow. Which is unheard of.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. And congrats. That's a big achievement.
Thank you.
How can people reach out to you?
I'd say Instagram. So KP Capital is my Instagram handle. So you could either message me on that and we can grab coffee, set up a call.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking? Because this has worked so well for you. Tell everybody that's listening or watching, what are you looking for next?
I would say development deals, whether it's in the city or on the South Shore, single families on the South Shore. And I would say multifamily off market in either Southie, Mission Hill, or East Boston. You
actually are specifically the town that you mentioned to me is it's not Norwood, is
Norwell.
Norwell.
Yeah. So we're looking in like Norwell, Hingham, Duxbury, Marshfield area.
Awesome.
Let's
find you a deal there.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. This is great. I appreciate your time. We gotta head next door to the meetup.
Sounds good.
This is fun. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you. Appreciate it.